Hello.
Hey, how you doing? How you doing this afternoon?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Trying to stay positive. That's all I can be. Continue to be grateful. That's all I can be right now. So I'm excited to have you as my guest. So you ready to go?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, wonderful. So we are back here live here on the Woman's Trial to Experience radio show. It's my distinct honor and privilege that to have this woman on here. She is a keynote speaker, a psychologist, and a author, along as a wife and a mother as well. So I want you to welcome the founder of Atlanta Couple Therapy, which meaning is finding the purpose in the process, Dr. Laura Louis. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am blessed. I am good. Join this Saturday, the second Saturday of May. I'm excited to have you as a guest. We got a lot to talk about because you talk about two things that I'm very passionate about, which is relationships and therapy, because I think therapy is essential and vital for growth and elevation, whether it's individually or as a couple. So can you tell us about yourself and how you grew up and what led you to doing Atlanta Couple Therapy?
Sure, absolutely. So I grew up in a small town, Pensacola, Florida. I'm a country girl. And I remember growing up just seeing a lot of divorce. Like literally everyone in my family was divorced. Like my parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, like everyone was divorced. And I would watch the Cosby Show and I would see like, okay, there is this beautiful, happy couple, happy family. And it really inspired me to want to study like what makes relationships work. So I went to undergrad at Florida State University, go Seminoles, and I did an internship right away at the Center for Marriage and Family Therapy. And so since then, I have been doing couples work for about 15 years. I have a PhD in counseling psychology from Howard University, go Bisons.
HBCU.
Yes, love my HBCU experience. And I started Atlanta Couple Therapy, and I work primarily with Black couples that are like they are mostly like high income earners, and they struggle with like how to balance life, family, and also nurture their relationship at the same time. So I teach them tools and strategies on how they can stay together when the world is pulling them apart. I do that with retreats. I have an upcoming retreat in Aruba coming up in September. I'm super excited about that. And I also have a membership community called the After I Do Academy. So that's a bit about me.
Yes, well, you do a lot, and I do a lot, and your reason for studying couples and things kind of the same to me, because I grew up in North Philadelphia and I didn't see a lot of marriages growing up. I didn't see a lot of moms and dads being together. You see a lot of dysfunction. You see the mom here today, another week, and in my family, I didn't see marriage at all. I didn't see relationships at all. And I was determined to break that curse. So I just recently got married. I've been married a year now. So
congratulations!
Thank you. And I met my wife on Facebook during the pandemic, where everything is began shutting down. And we met during the pandemic. We met. I inboxed her one night, and everything been and it's been ups and downs, but God's still good, So, and now we are kind of starting something similar to yours called Hang with the Howards, where we promote healthy relationships for couples who are married, who are trying to see where they are, engage, and try and give them value. Because a lot of times, the world doesn't want marriages, a lot of divorce, a lot of strife, and a lot of distractions, a lot of temptation out there. So, and also we are in therapy. We are not because we in trouble, but we want to do better. There's a lot of things, and I noticed that we clashed a lot during our first year of marriage, especially the beginning. You know, in terms of different lives coming together and adjusting to different norms and things that you used to growing up, or adapt to certain things that you didn't see in your family, and trying to learn and navigate through that. So we believe in power therapy. We believe in healing, because in the day, therapy is supposed to make you better, not worse. So, so basically, what is the common theme that you see in couples down there in Atlanta, and for your business, that's the problem in the community, why they refer to you? What's the common theme or common issue that couples down there deal with?
It's a couple things, but the number one thing is communication. That's the number one reason why marriages fail. It's not finances, it's not sex, it's not like those are big issues that couples present for. But the number one reason why relationships fail is because it's this feeling of like, did you hear me? Does what I say matter to you? Do I matter to you? And so I teach couples how they can effectively communicate without yelling, without fussing, without throwing things, without slamming doors, which is usually like where couples come to me from a place of like, you know, they just can't figure out how to be heard and understood in their relationship. And then as a result of working with me, they're able to discover like how to effectively communicate. So they both feel heard.
Yes, and I think that's one of the things I struggle with personally, is communication with my wife. It's not my wife, it's me, because I grew up single parent home. So single parent home, you know, so they not a lot of friends growing up. So then I grew up with a speech problem, which kind of affected me socially in my relationships and friendships. So me expressing myself was a big deal. And now, since I got married, it's been outward to me how much work I need to do in terms of communication, because sometimes I have that only child syndrome. I child moments where you do something you don't tell her, but it's like maybe you do an event or promote something you don't tell your wife, or it's not financial, but it does affects like the time. And so, and I struggle with listening. Like I hear my wife all the time, I'm so quick to get the last word. So and always trying to go back and forth. And sometimes I struggle with that. So I personally struggle with that. So what advice would you have for me, for those men or women who struggle to like always try to get the last word, or always try to be right? You know, we don't try to be right. You just want to be heard. What advice do you have for those people who are in that situation?
One of the things that I talk about in my After I Do Academy community is reflective listening, and I teach this to couples. So reflective listening is where one person is the speaker and one person is the listener, and the listener simply reflects back what they're hearing. And so they do something like this. I'll instruct them to say, okay, so start with, it sounds like what you're saying is this. And then they share what they heard their partner to be saying, for you, like what you hear your wife to be saying, and then check in with her and say, did I get that right? And so that allows for her to be able to say, yeah, babe, you got that right. Or that allows for her to clarify like her intentions or what she really wanted to make sure that you heard. And so this is a really great exercise because it helps effective communication take place. And what effective communication is one person sends a message in a manner that their spouse can receive it, and their spouse receives that message. And sometimes we need to check in for clarity because we may have like heard it wrong, you know? So that's something I would recommend.
Right. I think a lot of times, I think that's the mishearing of the word, you know, misheard. You know, maybe you heard one thing that they meant something else. So I think that's very important to do a reflective listening in your marriage. And so you say you are married too. So did you get married as you were starting this last couple therapy, or did you get married before you started it, and you took what you learned for your marriage and applied to your business?
So we met when I was 19 and we were both at Florida State. Matthew, he was working on his PhD in information technology. And I was like, oh, like this brilliant man, he's like all world traveled. And I was just smitten with him like from the beginning. And so we met when we were like really, really young. I mean, I was a teenager and now I'm 38. So I guess that's about 18 years, 18, 19 years. So yeah, it was way before like I started Atlanta Couple Therapy. And he has a business background, like he has a background in international business and technology. So he designed my website, he helped me set up my LLC. And so it was really like a partnership in the sense of like, it was so like, I know psychology, I know relationships, but the whole business world was like totally new to me. So yeah.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Yeah, that's the big thing too about, and that's, so my answer to that question, how do you, this is probably for couples, like for me as well as couples, like, so you suppose, like I said, I'm from like only child background, so I started multiple nonprofits, initiatives, and like that. So now I'm at the point now in my life, I'm in the season where now that I'm in process of letting people in and help me make it better. So, and my struggle with that growing up a couple of years ago was trusting people and vision. And so, especially, and I'm trying to let them in. So, especially when you get married now, you know, you have someone that's on your side, but you still have, you have that wall there, not for her because of what happened from you and your perspective, you know. So, what advice we have for those who are partnerships and working together and to make your business better, or about letting people in your business and trusting them, and how to let that in if you have a hard exterior and have past issues with trusting people with your businesses, or you know, trying to let them in and make sure that they know what's going on so they can best support you. But it's not, in the day, it's not about them, it's about the individual get through that hurdle, that wall, that barrier.
Do you mean like in marriage, or do you mean like people?
I'm thinking of marriage, because that's where I'm struggling. I'm in that season now. I'm just trying to let people in, and I'm starting to let people in, but I had a hard time trusting, like Dudley. I had a hard time delegating. So you know, things, you know. So I was trying to do everything by myself, but I came to realize that I can't. I realized that more openly now. I heard so many times, you can't do it by yourself, can't do it by yourself. But in the season now, I have learned with bright eyes that I cannot do this by myself. I need help. I need to delegate, and I don't know how to delegate a way that I could not worry. Sometimes I always like a pressure. I'm worried about this, worried about that. I want to be in a place where I can trust someone to do something that they are skilled at, that's better than me, but without having that worry or that question or that fear, you know, or that apprehension, you know. So, you know, so how do I get better with that? I mean, it's not get better with that, trusting people and trusting your people with your business, your vision, and how to like understand that, okay, they're here to help you and not think about, not have that back in mind hurting you. So
that's a great question, Lavon. That's a really great question. And in my practice, Atlanta Couple Therapy, I work a lot with entrepreneurial couples. And I can remember one couple in particular that they were running a like multi-million dollar like company. And the struggle was like really getting clear on what to delegate. And so I was able to work with them on like first making a list of what are their natural strengths. Like, you know, we all have like things that we just do well. Like when we doing it, like we are like, yes, this is what I love. And then we have those other tasks in the business that is like, it has to get done, but it's not necessarily your ministry. It's not necessarily something that you do with excellence. And so for me, a lot of times that's writing. Like I'm like a horrible writer. It's gonna be comments all over the place in the wrong place. So anyway, so I'm working with this couple. They're running this multi-million-dollar business. And so we write down the things that they're good at and the things that has to get done but are not their strengths. And then we see, okay, how can we clearly differentiate what is each person's role in the business? Because the problem was they were dipping into each other's lanes, and it was creating a lot of conflict because it was like, whoa, this is my thing, and you jumping into my thing. So we clearly differentiated each person's role. And then there were still things that had to get done in the business, but wasn't necessarily either one of their strengths. And so then we talked about, okay, how can we delegate? Who on your team would be the best person to delegate? How can we make sure that you don't micromanage them? Because that takes a lot of time, effort, and energy. But the micromanagement was happening because of, as you mentioned, the trust issues. And so we just had to ease the other people into these tasks while managing them, but just not overly managing them to the point where they were ready to leave, So that's really important.
Wonderful, wonderful. So I see also that you wrote a book called Marital Peace. That's an Amazon. Can you tell us what that book about?
Sure. So when I was at Howard University working on my PhD, I wrote what's called a dissertation, which is a really long.
And I'll test your strength so that the challenge was writing. So
right. So put me in writing. So it was like, it took a long time, and so my focus was on studying Black couples and studying what are some of the strengths within Black couples and what contributes to marital satisfaction, like meaning people being happy in their marriage. There's a lot of stuff about like what doesn't work, but I wanted to kind of be that voice of what does work in our community. So I did this study, interviewed tons of couples, and I found that there were certain things that couples who were doing well did that allowed them to thrive in their marriage. And so after I finished my PhD, graduated with my doctorate, then I put it into a book, but I put it into a book in a way that was easy to follow, easy to implement, real strategies on how couples can build a solid foundation in their relationship. And it's available on Amazon. So yeah, that's Marital Peace.
I like that, because at the end of the day, marriage is supposed to be peaceful, not a fight, not a struggle every single day. You want to come home to a safe space. You make sure your partner is a safe space that you can talk to, communicate special issues, concern, not with them, but in terms of things in life. That's very, very important. And I want to talk to about your signature speeches. You do 5 signature speeches, and one of them that kind of like stood out to me, although in your page, was basically fighting fair. So for a fight, it ended a fight. So how'd you come up with that topic? Because I think a lot of times, a lot of couples, they clash. Debate, I think sometimes over the littlest things, most of the times over the littlest things, it doesn't really matter, but we waste so much energy on that, we don't take away the joy of it. So how'd you come up with that speech, and like what are some principles for people to end the fight fairly, and not continue to be mad at each other or hold a grudge with someone or have an attitude with someone? I think a lot of times that communication, they talk about, that causes marriage to fail, isn't that because of fighting or maybe debates or learning how to disagree and not trying to force people to agree with your opinion? That's the thing. And that's a thing a lot of couples struggle with. So how do you come up with that, and what are some principles that we can learn from that?
I know for me, like early on in my marriage, like I just wanted to be right. Like it was just like, this is the way to do it, so just do it this way. And plus I have a strong personality. I'm a Leo, so I needed to really work on that, quite honestly. And so that's what really spearheaded Fighting Fair. And then in counseling couples, I would see that was a struggle that so many couples face. So I found that there were certain things that couples did when it came to not fighting fair, like bringing up something that happened in the past, not staying focused on the present. Right. So that's one thing to be mindful of. Also low blows, like bringing up the person's past or a traumatic history that they shared with you in a vulnerable moment, or bringing up their family, like you just like your mama, things like that. Low blows, that's one thing. And then another thing is defensiveness, like your partner says something to you and then you say, well, I wouldn't do this if you wouldn't do that. That defensiveness really makes it difficult to come to effective resolution. And I think overall couples should be mindful of not wanting to win the battle so much that they lose the war, which is their marriage. And so when you stay mindful of, like, I'm in this thing, I'm committed to you, I'm not going nowhere, you're not going anywhere, so let's figure this out, instead of being so married to, I have to be right,
Yeah, right. It's about coming to a conclusion and things like that. Have you encountered a couple in your journey that you felt like they could not be together based on what you heard from them and experienced, and you had to give them that tough decision that you got usually D-word divorce based on what they told you, and as you had you encounter those couples in your journey that felt they were not good for each other, like, but it can be better separately?
I never recommend divorce because I don't feel like it's my place as a couples therapist to tell a couple that they should get divorced. Like ultimately that's a bed that they're gonna have to sleep in, and long term, whether they make the decision to stay together or leave the marriage, they have to feel good about their decision. But what I do is I say, this is the path. Like, you want to heal, you want to rebuild trust, you want to learn how to communicate. This is what's going to be required of you. I'm a real straight shooter and direct with my couples in the sense of giving them strategy and telling them what's going to be required. Now it's up to them to say, all right, Dr. Louis, I'm ready to do it and I'm willing to do it. And some couples do decide that, like, they wait too long sometimes to come to couples therapy, to the point where so much resentment has been built up that there's an unwillingness to, like, look in the mirror, or unwillingness to say, you know what, this is my part of this. This is what I bring to this conflict, and this is what I'm willing to work on. And so for those couples, I know they struggle. They struggle with making the necessarily transformation that needs to happen to get through the difficult time.
Yeah, yes, I think that's very, very important. I think that it's important to transform, because once you get married, you're not gonna be the same person. It's gonna be, has a growth to take place, and there has to be elevation that takes place as well for us to grow. And in my journey, my marriage, so me and my wife went to couples therapy before marriage and still doing it now. So I highly recommend therapy, because you may not understand the beginning, but at the same time, as you go forward, a lot of things that they taught you, you'll remember and you apply to your life. You feel so much better because it makes you a better person after all. So, and I noticed also that you travel a lot of places because you're busy as a speaker. So what was the best place you went to in your journey as a therapist, speaking about couples, and what was the best place you went to so far?
I think I have three. It's hard to narrow it down.
Go ahead.
So Brazil was one. I've absolutely loved Brazil. And then Africa, going to South Africa, Cape Town. So beautiful, the mountains, the ocean. So South Africa, and then Greece, particularly the Greek islands, Santorini. I absolutely fell in love with Greece.
Wow, wonderful. So you went out there and did therapy out there, or just speaking engagements, or was the was so if you did, I'm trying to bring this question, like if you did like workshops there or experiences there, was the same issues the same here in the United States, there in the different countries, or different issues, or were there the same issues that couples face down in those countries?
You know, what I noticed about, particularly in France, there is some level of sociable acceptance for a person to have a mistress, as long as it doesn't affect them coming home at night, us having dinner at 7. Like, it was some level of acceptance that the one partner can have a mistress. And then in Senegal, I went to Senegal, West Africa, and I went to Dubai. And in Dubai and West Africa, it is okay for men to have multiple wives, as long as they can, take care of their wives. Like, they have to be able to provide the same level of status for the first wife as the second wife, and they can have up to 4. So that was like kind of a cultural phenomenon that I was definitely not used to. So it was definitely interesting to see like how they navigated, that situation. So yeah, different cultures have different things that are okay comparatively, to American culture. And then in Greece, I remember my husband and I going to a restaurant, and we were like, okay, where is the waitress? Where is our receipt? Like, we were like, all right, we've eaten, now let's go. And when we looked around, everybody was chilling. Like, they weren't in a rush at all. And I think it's a part of American culture that we're like always on the go, like, all right, let's go, let's go, let's go. And so experiencing another culture where they're more like chill, more relaxed, they'll stay at the restaurant for hours and just kind of, socialize. It wasn't as much like pressure to get on to the next thing. So that's something that I definitely took away from Greece.
Wow, that's awesome. That's, you got, like you said, you can experience different cultures, different ways of living, and learn something new. Every single day. Like anytime you travel, you learn something new, and that's different. It kind of give you a great appreciation of what you do here, but also give you understanding how people do things in different countries. Like that makes a real unique and different. Everyone's different, and no one's not the same. So my question to you, a couple more questions, is what is next for you?
So what's next for me is I am going to Aruba in September. I'm taking a group of 10 couples to Aruba. So I'm super excited about that. I believe that it's something that is restored when a couple is able to get away, have fun, be on the beach. It's like it renews the relationship. So we're going to have a good time. We have a few spots available. So if any of your listeners are interested, we can give you guys, like, because they are listeners to your show, $500 off. Just send me a message at 404-496-8070, and I can send you over the discount code to get $500 off.
Wow, that's big. I'm very promoting that. Definitely, absolutely. So, absolutely. Wow, $500 off. Okay, what's the date for the Aruba trip? The dates?
It's September 9th through September 12th. It's an all-inclusive resort right on the beach. It's gonna be amazing.
Wonderful, wonderful. I love. Wow, that's awesome. That's totally awesome. So, like I said, Dr. Laura Louis, you do a lot. You do a lot of things, and you juggle a lot of roles. So, what do you do for self-care?
For self-care, I have a massage therapist that comes to my house every week. And so, like, I'm really into like holistic health. And so when I did a study abroad program in London, and I on holistic health. And so I really use aromatherapy, like lavender scents can be very relaxing. So if anybody out there is like, okay, it's been a high stress week, then get you some essential oils. And also I like to be out in nature. So I just went kayaking yesterday out in Stone Mountain. It's a mountain nearby here. And so that was a lot of fun.
Wonderful. That's awesome. That self-care is very important. You want to unwind. And also, yes, you said just here on massage therapist. That's awesome. A weekly one. That's awesome. So where people can find more information about you and your services, and also about your book and what things you do. And also, can you tell us more about the two things you had something about academy or something?
Yeah.
Can you tell us more about that and where people can find you at?
Sure. So afteridoacademy.com, you can go to afteridoacademy.com, and that's where you can connect with me. So I provide a group session like once a month on the third Monday. So this upcoming Monday, I'll do a Q&A session, group coaching with couples. And I think it's really good for couples to connect with other couples, because like I mentioned earlier, I didn't see a lot of healthy relationships growing up. So if you are similar to me and you don't have a lot of like great examples, or you don't have a lot of couples friends that are about like marriage and building a happy marriage, then I would say definitely check out the After I Do Academy. If you're interested in therapy, then I would say go to atlantacoupletherapy.com, and that's a space where you can get signed up for therapy. Therapy can be so transformational. Levon, I love that you talked about your experience in therapy, because it gives other people a lens of what's possible for their relationship. It's like if you have a heart problem, you gonna go see a cardiologist, hopefully a good cardiologist. I think it's the same way when it comes to our mental health, the same way it comes to our relationships. Get plugged in.
Yes, indeed. Get plugged in. So are your services virtually, or you have a space in Atlanta so people down south that can come meet you in person? Do you do that, or is this all virtual?
It's all virtual. Yeah.
Okay. And my last question is, what advice would you tell your younger self about relationships and therapy that you wish you had known you was younger?
I wish, what would I say to my younger self? Forgiveness. Power of forgiveness. There's a quote that says, unforgiveness is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. It's like unforgiveness eats away at you. It affects your immune system, your cardiovascular system. So it's not even necessarily about the other person. It's about you healing, like your commitment to your own healing. And so that's one thing I would say to my younger self, because I used to like hold on to things, and like I'll bring up things from like 5-10 years ago. And so I had to get to a place of like, no, this is not good. It eats away at the foundation of a healthy relationship. So a commitment to forgiveness.
Wow. I love it. I love it, because that's what we all need to work forgiveness, especially the younger generation coming up. They know how to forgive, because a lot of times we don't forgive. We carry that to our adulthood, and we lose out so many opportunities, so many people that we can connect with, because we have forgiven that person or yourself for the mistakes you have made. So I think it's very important, essential that you forgive and let it go, because forgiveness is for yourself, not for the other person, And once you do that, it's like a big mountain, a boulder off your shoulders. You feel more free to be what you are becoming, So Dr. Laura Louis, it's been an extreme honor to have you as my guest. Very, very profound, very confident in your services. I love your services. I love what you provide to couples, because me and my wife are on the same track of trying to like build something like that, because in the day we want our couples to be free and have relationships, so our younger people can see marriage and can see people working together in a healthy way and not constant tension and toxicity, you know what I mean, or drama, you know. So I think that's very important, and we just trying to break a generation and break the strongholds and change the narrative of relationships, that relationships are possible once you work on yourself and with your partner. You work better, because therapy can work better, is better together, because in the day it's about bettering yourself and you're not hurting yourself, you better yourself in the process. So Dr. Laura, thank you so much for being part of the show. I will definitely promote that initiative that you have for the Ruby trip, and also your services as well, because your services are very needed in Atlanta, in the South, in the North, in the West, in the Midwest. So because I think couples need to come together and just heal, because your dynamic relationship affects the children the children behind you in some way, shape, or form. So, and it's our responsibility to break that narrative, to have a role and change that narrative, so our kids can be hopeful, have a positive outlook on relationships and marriage in general. So thank you so much. I really appreciate this time. I hope you enjoy the rest of your Saturday. And I definitely love what you do. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Have a good one.
All right, you too.
All right.